Let's go on building our solid object by adding a linear protrusion to that profile. This feature will add some volume to this solid, however not with extension distance, but we ask up to next face. We invert the direction, so ThinkDesign will sweep our profile up to the next face of the solid. Let's now add an edge fillet on the vertical edges of radius 3. Requiring to create a series of fillets, it's recommended first to add fillets on the vertical edges. In this way, we will remove all the discontinuity of tangency, and the next fillet we are going to create exploit the option tangency chain. Therefore, it will let the fillet, in this case of radius 1, go along the whole chain of edges in tangency. Now we add a hole, not with values retrieved from the screw tables, but with the value of the diameter that we specify, 8, and the positioning point will have to be snapped to the midpoint of the reference line of our profile, not through all, but through next, because it doesn't need to cross the whole solid, but it stops at the internal face of the central hole. In fact, we see it doesn't cross the solid. We can make a selection, and by the command View, Hide Driving Dimensions, we are going to hide any possible driving dimension of the features that have been created so far. Let's bring again the triad of axes to absolute reference system, that is, the triad of axes in the position world, because from this position we modify it, moving the triad of axes to that point, and rotate around the x-vector by 90 degrees, this because we need to orientate the xy plane to this position, because on that position we are going to create a profile for the next solid feature. Therefore, view along that, we zoom in to work better in detail, we draw a line hooking to the edge of the solid. In this way, ThinkDesign automatically adds the geometric constraint of point on curve, so the point will keep constrained to that edge. Let's view the wireframe mode, because in the next constraint dimension we need to select the central axis of the hole, then the inclined line, as we need to manage an angular driving dimension that we change from 15 to 12. Then, with another dimension constraint, we want to manage the attachment point of that inclined line with respect to the central point of the bottom basis of our solid. By detecting the dimension, we modify it and set it to a value of 30. Let's go back to the model environment. We change the visualization and insert the rib feature. Therefore, starting from our profile, ThinkDesign will add some volume by the solid rib feature, whose thickness is 4. Let's set that this 4 must be symmetric with respect to the profile. We insert a draft angle of 5 degrees that will be the inclination of the side faces. In other options, we specify a base radius of 1 mm and a common radius among all the resulting edges of 1 mm. In actual fact, here we have completed our job, that is the first project specifications requiring to make a solid with a rib, a protrusion, and a hole. Subsequently, at this step, in the current state of the history of our model, we are asked to add 3 more ribs. Well, we do it by the solid pattern command, replaying that rib with an angular pattern type around the central axis of our hole, for an extension of 360 degrees, so that 4 copies, including the original one, are included, and we confirm. However, ThinkDesign displays a warning message stating that the solid is open, therefore it cannot make the required feature. In Option Properties, we can activate a setting in Construction stating yes, show me anyway the final result even in case of failed update. That's why we repeat our pattern. We select the rib. This time we do it from the history tree. We say Continue, because we don't have any other feature to select. And we select the axis around which we make the angular pattern. Values are those previously inserted, so here is the pattern being created, even if the message of Open Solid is displayed. That is, the final result doesn't create a homogeneous solid. We can already see it visually, zooming in correspondence of the hole made on that protrusion. It says something is wrong. On the other end, also in the history tree, we can view a new item, a skin, that is an actual skin and not a solid, so it is a kind of solid that we can check by the Tools Check Manifold command. It's an open solid, and here also the points where there are openings are highlighted. For sure, at this step of the history of our model building, we do not have a homogeneous solid, because we replayed a rib that, at a certain point of the history, leads to an open solid, and we will have to make the appropriate, necessary adjustments.